We have a few announcements before I introduce our speaker tonight. The first thing I want to say is that we're giving a gift from the Department of Design next forum. So please make sure you attend. It's going to be in room 610. And Virginia from AIGA Design Club would like to make an announcement quickly.
She's not here, but I can.
Okay, Claudia.
Okay, hi, it's about the design club. We wanted to announce that we're having our first meeting this Friday at 10 a.m. So you all very welcome to come.
Where?
On the
510.
yeah 510.
Room 510.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Can everyone hear me? So I really don't want to use the speaker. Everybody can hear me?
Yeah.
To make my introductions. All right. So Jennifer McKnight's design work has been recognized in print magazines and in several international publications, including United Design Annuals and the Golden Bee International Poster Biennale. Her poster work has been exhibited internationally, and her design work has also been published in Becoming a Graphic Designer, A Guide to Careers in Design by Stephen Heller and Teresa Fernandez. Her design writing appears in several publications, including Means by Which We Find Our Way in Graphic Design Solutions. But Jen is going to talk about her work. I'm here to share something personal about my friend Jen. Jen and I were at grad school together. She was in the class below me, so we didn't graduate together, nor did we have many classes together. But we worked in the studio late at night and helped each other with our process and our survival of graduate school at CalArts. The little things I want to share about Jen. I know she loves to work with scissors. She loves to make analog into digital, back into analog, back into digital, back into analog, back into digital. She's uber creative and pushes herself to learn about technology and new programs. Since grad school, we have helped each other learn how to navigate academia. She is now a full professor at University of Missouri in St. Louis, and she's been one of the most important, helpful, insightful, giving colleagues that I have become friends with at school. Look around the room. Do you know anyone a grade above or below you? Who do you discuss design with late at night in the studios? Whose aesthetic do you look at for inspiration? Who will you continue to grow with beyond school? Who is your Jen McKnight? I'm so happy to have my friend and colleague here tonight, visiting all the way from St. Louis, Missouri. Please welcome my good friend and colleague, Jen McKnight.
Thank you so much for that, Daniela. Thank you so much for that introduction. I got to sit in on a really wonderful motion class today with Professor Norman, who's another very good colleague of mine from school who's followed me through my career. I could never have done what I do at UNSL without Daniela. She and I really did teach each other a lot of different things, and we challenged each other to make our programs better. So I'm issuing you a challenge for today. I dare you, this is a dare, to introduce yourself to one person you do not know in this auditorium on your way out, or this week. Because Daniela and I could have not known each other at all. She just happened to be the person who I was assigned to, like after she pulled a really late all-nighter to lead me around campus. And if it hadn't been for that, I don't know where I would be today. I'd probably teach because of her, because I watched her come to Loyola and bring in Tadanori Yoko immediately afterwards, and I became a teacher. So I'm here today to talk to you about process, and I know our time is limited. I truly believe in process. It is the way. But first of all, hi, I'm Jen. And I love beautiful things, and what I find beautiful, maybe not everyone does, but. So process. And yes, I did eliminate a few letters between the first slide and this one. I'm sure a lot of you have heard trust the process. But sometimes it's like, what does that even mean? What does it mean to trust the process? Well, the thing is, you can't trust someone else's process. You have to trust your process, which means if you like to draw, then you should draw. But if you don't like to draw, don't draw. What if you like animating things and you just want to spend like a million hours in Cinema 4D? What if you really like geeking out on code? Or what if you like being a fashionista and like acting? Or what if you like coming up with ideas? What if that's what you really like? You should follow that. So I think the best thing you can do to prevent freak out is to learn your process. It's not. This is me. Like, I thought I had to do things the way everyone else did it for years. Until I finally figured out, you know what? I am never going to be a designer like everyone else. I'm just too weird. And weird is good, you know? So, okay. I'm going to learn my process. What makes it easy for me to work. Our brain is a muscle, just like every other muscle. So being a graphic designer is being an athlete. So any of you, how many people in here are athletes or were athletes in high school or athletes in the past? Okay, we got a few. No one wins a race by just like being good at racing the second they walk out the door. No, the race is won in all the stuff you do before the race, right? So if you are gonna be creative on a deadline at the last minute, you gotta prepare. And that's that process. The process is what's gonna let you like pull that rabbit out of the hat at the last freaking moment, the 11th time, right? So process is a lot of, but that trust word is the most important one in the sentence. You gotta find ways to uncurl yourself so you can trust the stuff you're making. So for me, this create a can't rule was always my favorite. Find a place to trust and try trusting it for a while. I like to doodle this way. I like scissors. I like them a lot and always have. And the fact that I like scissors is a through line in my work. I like paper cuts. I like linoleum cuts. That's me making metal smithing. I also like sewing. I don't have my sewing slide in here, but I just sewed these posters into a skirt. Like, this is like prints from something I did a week ago, and I made it into a skirt for an opening. And that is good. If you like to draw by sewing, then you should draw by sewing. I also like this stuff a lot. And then I found out about all the different ways you could have tape, and like my life is complete by doodling with tape. I love patterns, and I use all these, I make things to fill my well, so that when I have to pull those rabbits out, I can do it. I take myself on artist dates. The slide on the left and the right are in Amsterdam, places where I collect images that I can come back with. That's Loie Fuller on the right, dancing in the 1920s. And the 1-inch picture frame, an idea from Sister Creta Kent on the left. But you don't have to go somewhere exotic to have an artist date. Sometimes, your paper source is good enough, or the library, or wherever makes you happy, and gives you sources of my stuff. But I store those ideas up so that I'm ready. Here's something I brought back from Amsterdam this summer. It's cool 1890s retro stuff that I will use at some point in some project. I just haven't used it yet. Again, with the muscle thing, if the brain is a muscle, it responds to water, it responds to sleep when you can do it, and it responds to regular exercise. I find that my good ideas come after I've been dancing, or after I've been out walking with my trusty companion Loki, who is down in the corner. Moving my body actually does create the ideas. How many of you walk to get your good ideas? It's really important. I also fill the well by reading, because interposing all those, in fact, I have started poetry degrees and took poetry at CalArts, because there's some weird thing that happens where it translates into visual poetry, drilling from a different source. And you have to find your people. This is probably not a stranger to you. This is my beloved colleague, Liz Bukta, and our new colleague, Jody, and we are communing to visually problem solve together. If you do all this stuff, you can comfort your inner child. You can get your inner child to go towards the fear. And maybe you can keep it together when the going gets tough, and maybe you can not have this freak out and scream, I suck at yourself, but actually just find the joy and do it. Find the flow. So I'm sharing a couple of projects with you, and they're both projects that kind of show off my process. And my process is long, because I'm looking for something I haven't seen before. And that is very hard to do in these current days. I was invited, Scott and I both were invited to do posters for Type Hike Arch, a celebration of 100 years of the Missouri Gateway Arch. So there's the arch. And if you live in St. Louis, you have seen 1 billion hideous, usually combined with hobo or Comic Sans bad arch images. They're everywhere. So how do you make an arch that isn't cliche? It's like, that's gonna be tough. But I did some research. I started playing around with some dots in Illustrator. I was inspired by those fishes on the right. I've got my color scheme up front. I also did some research into other work that Type Hike had done. They've done 3 or 4 big projects, and I was looking at what floated my boat from what they had made before. So I started making arches. So I had this brilliant idea. I'm going to fill the arch with patterns to represent how vibrant the city is. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So I started making them. And I was like, I don't know. I had made all this stuff, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like it. So I took a left turn, I printed them out, I tried to look at it anew, and I called a friend, I called Liz, and asked her, what's wrong with this stuff? What's wrong? She's like, it's too tight. So on the left, as I was trying to figure out what to do differently, one of the things is there's just like, there was no point of view. It was all like a flat quilt, and I was trying to figure out how to fix that. So I do this thing called slap chop, which is I take my big, hideous files that are hard to move around stuff in, and I screen capture them, and I start moving stuff around really fast in my favorite program, which is Photoshop. I was a digital illustrator for a long time before becoming a graphic designer, and so it's where I'm comfortable. And I just move stuff around to find the compositions. So then I started again with this arch, and then I made more stuff, and it got weirder and weirder, and I made more stuff. Even still, like, I printed some of the stuff out, and I was like, it looked better on screen, and then when I actually printed it out, I didn't like it. I started also researching quotes. The arch is made by Eero Saarinen, so I looked for a lot of quotes by Eero Saarinen, looking for ones that were inspirational, ones that expressed what the Gateway Arch means to Missourians, that it's a gateway to the West, a gateway to adventure, to new things. But I decided they were too cold. So I printed out my little arch and my little stripey pattern, and I started doing Xerox craziness. I started distorting them and distorting them and distorting them. And then I started realizing, hey, they're starting to look like letter forms. So I went back into Photoshop and started assembling the Xerox transfers I had done there to see if I could get them to be letter forms. So after that, I did a lot of experiment with how to make the type more readable, how to put the quote in, how much other dot pattern there should be in there to see if I could make these work. So I kept going and going and going. Little changes, and these are the finals. Even at the very end, I was having a hard time deciding between the big, crazy, weird arch poster and this more essentialized one on the left. In the end, I printed out the big, crazy arch poster because I had at least met my goal of making an arch poster I had not seen before. This weird roofy poster was definitely one I had not seen before. So these are the files for printing silkscreen. One thing I realized when I made the silkscreen panels is that I liked them better than the color ones. And I have to say, I will admit to you, I still have reservations about this project. And it had to do with the color, especially from a long distance. It was hard to get the color to work the way I wanted it to. So I am invited back to do another show called Local Lands with Ty Pike. And here's sort of the ID for this show about Local Lands. Local Lands is about every local Missouri park, just in honor of local Missouri parks, and the money would go. Both of these were fundraisers, and the money goes to support local parks. So I chose Powder Valley. Mostly what you think of when you go to Powder Valley, a place that I've hiked and loved for a long time. You mostly think of these beautiful woodsy vistas and this lovely running creek. But Powder Valley has a really nice visitor center full of amazing. I usually think visitor centers are kind of Snoresville. I think they're boring. And I know I'm probably more unusual for feeling that way, but this one, there's all this interactive stuff, and there's all these interesting animals, including this living beehive in the middle on the bottom. And there's also this very famous turtle named Peanut. Peanut got caught in a coke ring when he was young, and he grew into this peanut-shaped turtle. And he has taught so many people about ecology and taking care of your world. They also have like poisonous snakes in there and really cool spiders and like all these things that, you know, your inner 7-year-old wants to look at and the kids really, really love to look at. So they teach a lot. So I went back with my son to go research this poster and remember what we loved about it. The other thing, in this upper left corner, this little funny birdhouse, there was a man who donated his collection of like 35 birdhouses that he made like in his garage. It's just a really interesting, odd place. So it was amazing how hard it was to draw the first drawing. So in my critique group, which meets every week on Zoom with friends from my undergraduate, I drew this first crummy drawing. Why is the first drawing so much harder to draw than any of the other drawings? So from here, I was teaching computer design too, so I converted the turtle into vector using the amazing curve tool, if you haven't used it before. It's very cold and digital though, so I wanted to fix that. So I took myself on an artist date to Paper Source, and I bought some interesting paper. I also started making drawings, rough, crude drawings, to soften all that hard Illustrator that I was going to overlay as bitmaps in my Illustrator file. So then I started laying in these bitmaps into Illustrator to soften the turtle, and it started to begin to shape up. Then I started pairing typography. I was looking at some super groovy type. One of these is by my good friend David Jonathan Ross of DJR Types. The other one I think is a gift from Scotty. And then I looked at other weird typefaces. And I tried out my different sketches over time. You see, I'm like cycling through some of them, losing some of them. And I told myself I was going to refuse to capture, what I would like to do is capture every last thing at a place that I like and put it all into the poster, but then there's no center to the poster, so I was trying not to do that. And just really make it about Peanut. So I kept iterating and iterating, and what this little sign says is a beautiful little park surrounded by highways, because this park on Powder Valley is at the corner of where Highway 44 meets Highway 270. It's like tucked in, and it's beautiful and remote, but then outside is all these big highways. So it's kind of a joke and a little bit of the pond. More drawings that I imported over top to soften the different bitmaps. And to make these, what I discovered was the best way to do it was I actually brought them up on this computer screen right here. And I put my tracing paper over my computer screen and was drawing right along my Illustrator lines, right along the places that I wanted to cover, right? So it matched beautifully. I stuck all these in. And then this time I was not going to settle for bad color. No more bad color. So I took the colors that we were given and I tried so many iterations of these colors over and over again. It's so fun. And what happened, I don't know how I ended up with 3 slides of the same thing, but I'll tell you how I did it. I used recolor artwork. It is the funnest thing ever. I totally, if you want a cheap thrill, try recoloring things with recolor artwork in Illustrator. It's super fun. And that's the final poster, although There were so many good final posters, and the color, I was happy that I did not make the water blue, and I did not make the turtle green, and I did not, settle for what other people, what people expect these things to be. Next, I have, how am I doing on time? Oh, okay. Next, I got to do this project. I was invited to do a project to brand Future Makers, which is kind of a toy company. They make small, inexpensive, interactive toys for classrooms. So very low price point per piece to get people to create and to experiment and to investigate. And I actually decided, it was April, which is very hard, March, April, really busy time of school year. And I wanted to do this show very badly. I wanted to do this commission very badly, but I didn't know how I could do it without making myself miserable with too much work. So I finally realized that what I should do is ask someone to do it with me. So I asked Scott if he would work on this project with me, and it turned a project that would have made me totally miserable into the most fun thing ever, just to call a friend and get some help. So we had a blast. So I started by making they are so ingenious how the pieces snap and click together, how each object folds and changes and transforms, how they're simple materials that turn into more complex materials, and Scott and I really wanted to have that energy in the design. We had a huge design problem, which is that the company owner named the company Future Makers, the longest of titles, and they want to have that logo at about 1/4 inch on the edges of all their packaging. And so Scott and I met and we said, oh, well, we should make an icon that stands for them. Or we should shorten the name by, doing like FUTR, MKRS, something to shorten the name. And they said, no. They said no. So then Scott and I went back to the drawing board. We also started messing around with this plus sign, this and sign, which we had another name for it. It's the click. It's the creative process. So we were messing around with both these elements together, and eventually we started affectionately calling it the paper clip. This is not all the work we did for this, but this is like a taste of what we were working on. We did lots of iterations. Every time we thought we had a brilliant solution to this problem, when we were really excited about it, the client said, no, you're not going to do that. We want the whole word. But that's a good challenge. We also decided that as important as the branding was the background that you put the branding on. So we started making lots and lots of imagery that felt like it was uniquely like Future Makers. Up here in this top corner is work made by Future Makers automatic drawing kits. Down here is Lego letterpress. Some of this other stuff comes from my image making classes, but this down here is, like an ink palette. So I want to share with you the final deck we did for that. It's just like a little taste of that project, but I thought I would share it. Let's see. Yeah, but it's too late now. Okay, so here are our final marks. So the idea was that we'd sort of made like a machine out of the word future. Like you could imagine the pistons pulling in and out and making the letter form slide in and out. So that it was, and those connections were all about the connections the students would make and the clicks they'd kind of get. So a couple variations of that. Here's what happens when we put color into it. We did a lot of color research to really nail the color. And then here is our paperclip or our click sign in its many iterations where the pieces of this paperclip can slide around and make lots and lots of new shapes. Here are the final pieces that we put in. These X's are actually the connectors that they use to connect large straw sculptures thrown on a light table. And they're beautiful, but they also have this correctness, and this is how we use them with the logo marks. So yeah, lots and lots of really messy stuff that actually can put on its colors and play nice with a beautiful, clean logo that can be scaled to 1/4 inch. So that is that. So Scott and I had only one regret about this project, which is there was not enough time or budget to animate it. But I did have one little treat left for you. This is another animation that, this is an animation that we did for Kelly Anderson's opening at UMSL. Just a little love of process. That is my talk. I'm wondering if you guys have questions. Up front is my process from, just a little of the process from the Arch project.
Wow.
All right, so questions for Jen.
Yes. How many Arch posters do you think you ended up making? Iterations total do you got?
Liz actually counted them. Liz was staying with me during the process of this madness, and I think there were about 100. About 100. I started liking them in the last 40.
Some of them were like tweaks though towards the end, right? So changing the color.
Yeah,
type.
One of our classmates once said to make the first 80% of a poster is like, one unit of work, but to get it the next 20% is almost the same amount of work or more. Yeah, the last part is really slow. Yeah, with lots of tweaking.
You talked about sometimes things just not working, with the poster you kind of restarted. How do you know when you hit the point where you kind of just have to regroup, restart?
Well, if you print the work out and you find yourself sweating a little bit, that's not a good sign. I mean, I think I printed out, I think when I got here, I kind of thought I was getting somewhere, and then I printed it out, and it looks like really bad Illustrator, things I would spank my students for, and I was I held it in the mirror, and at this point, that's when I go to gather more stuff. That's usually when I take myself on an artist date. Did you see that happen both times? I get to a point, and I was it's not working yet. And yeah, so. Anyone else?
Over here.
Yeah?
What did you particularly dislike about your colored version of the Arches? Because I personally really love that colored one.
Well, thank you. I think with that Arch one, do you want me to go back to it? I think with the Arch one, part of what bugged me is that on this little screen up here, on this little screen, it kind of worked. But the funny thing about it is they were going to be printed really big, like 3 feet by 5 feet. And what happened at that huge size is that like citrine green kind of disappeared. It just didn't hold the way it was supposed to. And when you look here, look, you can see all those patterns in a completely different way. That's what bugged me the most, probably. Yeah.
Jada. So I see you take like these artist walks and stuff like that. How long do you say it took you to like see things creatively, or just in a way that was kind of possibly amazing?
I try to do a little exercise every day, like I'm trying to keep a car running. Actually, Michael Worthington is the person who said when you don't know what to do next, it's time to walk away and come back. And if you have time, take a walk. And if you don't have time, walk to the vending machine and back. Walk, go get a drink of water and come back. And that's when I like start holding things upside down, or I hold them in the mirror, anything that I can do to make it look different. I start cutting things up too. Yeah, I do.
Alright, some more questions over here.
How do you keep yourself like learning as a designer, whether it's like software or like techniques and stuff like that?
So I have to say, learning as a designer, like, that's the part that I love the most. Like, I love new stuff. So, like, I get really excited when it's like time to go see how, I have 5 hours. How much can I learn about Cinema 4D in 5 hours? Or, how, like, can I figure out Figma this weekend? Okay. Like, that part is easy for me. Like, I think that's fun. It's definitely fun before you have a deadline. But one of the things about learning new stuff is the voice you use to talk to yourself. If you say, why don't you already know this? Then it's no fun. But if you say, I am a goddess because I am learning from YouTube. That is my secret power as a graphic designer, is I can learn from YouTube. Then you're like, oh, well, if I'm a rock star because I'm learning from YouTube, then anything that happens is good. It's all positive, right? Like, for me, that's the difference. I recommend you all tell yourselves that you are rock stars. It helps. It really helps. Oh, thank you. The bows came from the Amsterdam trip. I just got back from Amsterdam. We just had the opening last Friday, and one of my students gifted these to me, and it made me feel ever so slightly more Dutch, so I like them. Yeah. Thank you. Well, yeah. Oh, that's a really good question. If somebody tells you feedback and you're thinking wait, who is the person? Is the person who's paying for the project, or the person you ask for help? Right, yeah, my crit group. Oh, well, if a peer tells me something that I don't agree with, I often will try it, and then I will also reject it if I think they're wrong. But if it's somebody who wants me to make work for them and I have to listen to it, I actually really work hard at trying to put myself in their shoes and try to figure out from their point of view why that is essential. And because if I can get on board with them, then it's easier to make the work for them. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes? Which is my favorite poster? the next one. It's always, I don't know, I really like that turtle one. I really do. And it's weird, I think part of why I made a better poster for that is I had a lot of really important family time in that park with my 7-year-old, and I want to remember that forever, and so it made it easier to make a beautiful poster for that exhibit. Yeah. Oh, well, that was an interesting thing. I was not receiving a lot of emails from Mumedi, the design museum. I had entered a show, and I just didn't know if I'd gotten in or not. and then I found their work. I found my work up, and I was like, oh, I guess I got in the show. I actually do spend a lot of time looking for exhibitions that I want to enter. I do a lot of search for poster competitions. There used to be a secret site called Rennie Warner's poster page where they had a bunch of them listed, but then Rennie Warner, we lost him. And his big collection is now in a really interesting design museum called Poster House in New York. But if you do searches for poster competitions, you can find lots of cool ones, actually. And there's no time like the present to start entering because they tend to want student work a lot because students are busy and they don't have time to submit. So go for it, go for it. Okay, I have a question for you guys. How do you like to make? What is your secret favorite way to make? Who can share? Y'all hate making. You're all scientists. Are y'all scientists? Yeah? Yes! That's when it gets silly, right? It helps when it gets silly. That's what, do you think 4 a.m. in the design lab is good because then you're too tired to be scared? I think that's what it is about 4 a.m. Yeah? Why is everything easier with a friend? You can riff with a friend forever, and it's like you could have made this stuff yourself, but then somehow it's always better with a friend. I don't know. It's good. Anyone else? Anyone from this side? Got a favorite way to make? Yeah? Yeah, when you drag in something new from the outside, there you get such good stuff, yeah? Cool. Anyone else? I guess that's it. Well, I think I slipped over your thank you slide too fast.
I thought we were going to put it as a piece of paper outside again.
I have one if you need it. I printed one.
And if anyone wants to come down and talk to me about process, I would love to talk to you. Otherwise.
Also remember, tomorrow night, we are celebrating this professor here, and to continue what you saw tonight, you're going to see some incredible process work tomorrow night, so I'm hoping that we see you tomorrow night. Ball Gallery.
Free food and drinks from 5 to
Free
7.
food and drinks.
Try to be there, so come by the
Not
Ball
just
Gallery.
one.